The Secrets of Stargate is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, Episode 32.
Janet West, Jackson has identified the seventh symbol.
All right, here we go. We are about to try to make a connection.
All we gotta do is bust out of here, commandeer the ship, and fly on home.
Indeed. You say that a lot.
I know that this could be dangerous. But this is our job, right? It's what we signed on to do.
It was never about going home. It's about getting us to where we're going.
Hello and welcome to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate's movies, TVs, series, and more. I'm Father Cory Sticha, taking over from Jack Berzini this week. We had to throw him through the gate at a sudden notice of a trip, so he'll be back hopefully next week. Fortunately, Lisa Jones and Victor Lambs are here. Howdy, Lisa.
Hey, Father Cory.
And howdy, Victor.
Hi, Father Cory.
Today we're discussing Tok'ra, a two-part episode from the second season of Stargate SG-1. Victor, why don't you give us a summary of these episodes?
Sure. It is a two-parter, so buckle up for a summary here. On Earth, Samantha Sam Carter has a vision of people she's never met standing in a tunnel someplace she's never been. In her vision, Sam looks in a mirror and sees herself as well as a gate address being dialed on the DHD. This vision is the result of her having been previously blended with a Tok'ra symbiote named Jolinar, and for more on that, you can see our Secrets of Stargate episode 23, In the Line of Fire. Deducing that the people in her vision must be the Tok'ra, Sam convinces Jack and General Hammond to investigate the address she saw in her vision. Right before heading through the gate, Sam calls her father, General Jacob Carter, and learns that he is in treatment for his cancer in Colorado Springs, which is near the SGC, so that he can be close to his daughter in his final days. Meanwhile, on the desert planet, SG-1 is quickly ambushed by the Tok'ra and ring transported to their underground complex of tunnels. The Tok'ra are happy to meet Sam as they finally have closure on the whole Jolinar thing. One of the Tok'ra, Martuf, reveals that he had previously been married to the Jolinar symbiote a couple of hosts back, so he and Sam sit in the sand and talk for a while. SG-1 proposes an alliance with the Tok'ra, but since the Tok'ra correctly perceive that the idea of volunteering themselves as a host for one of their members, whose host is dying, gives SG-1 the Ghiblies, they're not in favor of this. And since the alliance is a non-starter, the Tok'ra will keep SG-1 in their tunnels until such time as they need to move on to a new base. Around this time, SG-3 evolves with Colonel Makepeace to take Sam back to Earth as George has talked to Jacob and learned that Sam's father has only minutes or perhaps days left to live. Sam, in the process, has a eureka moment and reasons that she has a dying dad and the Tok'ra have a dying host, and it could be a win-win-win to get the two of them together. So she heads back to Earth in order to get Jacob on board with this. Meanwhile, the need for the Tok'ra to move to a new base comes very quickly as the Goa'uld motherships are on the way. As the Goa'uld attack, the Tok'ra hastily plan to evacuate. Jacob is joined with Selmak after Selmak's dying host, Skadoosh, convinces Jacob that Selmak is a good snake. And thus one of the coolest characters in the Stargate canon is blended. Everyone escapes from the planet as the Death Gliders attack. And back on Earth, Jack exposes... Oh, wait, this is before they get to Earth. Jack exposes a traitor in the Tok'ra ranks, and so the Tok'ra are very grateful, which opens up the door to future relations. But as Jacob Selmak, translates the benefit of this to the humans, don't call us, we'll call you. So there was a lot going on in this episode.
Yeah.
And then when
we did decide to take the two-parter and do it together because it is one real long story. It's not like some two-parters where there's a distinct break. The only real break between them is the cliffhanger of will SG-1 ever leave the Tok'ra alive? Yeah. And that's about it. So we figured that this was the easiest way to do it all as one story. But so Lisa, what did you think of this one?
This one has so much, but I think overall it is a great payoff of the start of the season where we had, Carter being, receiving Jolinar and having Jolinar's memories, all that stuff. And so it was a great payoff. You get a lot of, just forward-thinking story. We get Martuf, which is, I think, a fan favorite for everybody, especially my family. And then Jacob Carter, who I just love. So yeah, lots love here.
And how about you, Victor?
Yeah, there is a lot going on. I watched these back to back, and it seems a lot shorter than it actually is when you're watching it, which is always a good sign. A lot of really cool, iconic moments, the Tok'ra tunnels being created and then, not created at the end is definitely something that, I remember from when I watched this originally. But there is a lot of characters go here and talk, and then they go to, one of the other two locations in the episode and talk. And it's, so there's a lot of like going to different places and different characters talking to each other. As they do have a lot of, kind of backstory to establish and, character moments to build on.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with both of you. I mean, this is a great episode. This is, of course, one of the pivotal episodes of the season where we meet very important allies. Sometimes they're not so happy with us, but very important allies of the Tauri. And, we meet some important characters, and there's a lot more development of the universe, of course, the conflict with the Goa'uld system lords, that there is a resistance of you can call them Goa'ulds, but obviously they don't consider themselves the same, but they're clearly of the same species or an offshoot of the same species. But they're the rebellion. We've got the Empire, and now we've had the Empire, now we've got the rebellion. So it's a very important episode, and of course, we should just jump right into it. And one thing, of course. Let's go. Going through the characters. Of course, we can start with Jacob Carter, only because he's the one character other than SG-1 that we've already known. Everybody else is new. And I'll be honest, I didn't mention this when we talked about 2 episodes ago when we talked about him, but he really isn't a character that there's any sympathy for. Of course, we find out he's dying, but it's like, yeah, but you're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And yet you like him.
Yeah.
Or I do.
You come to definitely through this. You definitely do through this, but he ends up, he has this cancer that we found out about, and he comes to Colorado Springs, as you said, Victor, to be closer to Sam, but also for his treatment. And of course, he gets sick very quickly. This isn't, I've got months. No, actually, you've got days. And there's even the scene where he's being resuscitated. They're doing the shocks, the paddles on his chest, and it's like, no DNR order, no do not resuscitate order, I guess.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that the last time we saw that's the U.S. Air Force Academy Hospital or Training Hospital. Last time we saw that was in the Jalinar episode in the Line of Duty. So that's kind of a nice symmetry there.
Yeah, definitely nice connection. But of course, we'll talk more about his change very quickly. But it's, and of course, I had to laugh because he said, General Hammond called him, an old soldier, and it's like, soldiers are Army. He should have been Army instead of Air Force.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of like that, Jonathan Glassner wrote this episode, and I was thinking as I was watching this that, and I don't know if this is true of all of Jonathan Glassner's episode. It could be, this is just the first time I noticed it, is a lot of the writing, the dialogue is very on the nose. There's not a lot of nuance to the dialogue itself. People are saying, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going to do. And then it's up to the actors to really bring nuance and, to breathe emotion into a lot of the lines. And I think the cast really does deliver in this episode in that regard.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I love,
I
love General Hammond telling Sam Carter, she's just like her father.
Yep.
A lot of parallels between them, and that she understands. She doesn't understand him, but she does without realizing it, right? And that she knows what he's gonna do, but they have so much angst in their relationship. So you think about that whole father-daughter story arc was just done beautifully here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course you see the look on her face. She's not happy about that. And as I think a lot of people are, is that they hear, oh, you're just like your mother or your father. And it's like,
They're talking about what they don't like about them, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So
apparently, like calling dying family members, like just as you're stepping through the gate, is one of those traits, though. It's like, we're leaving in 10. I'll be ready to go in 5. Just let me call my dying dad and have a heart-to-heart with him before.
Yeah.
Timing.
I'm going on a trip to check out satellites somewhere. I'll be back.
Well, if
And
you think about how
Go
they
ahead.
put him, or they had him move to Colorado Springs to be near her. I know it's a plot device, right? But if you think about it, it's not in character for him.
No.
That he would go
No, not at all.
close to her
Yeah.
in order to die where he doesn't want her to see him die, right? But it
Right.
was perfect for this. And because he was Air Force, it did kind of make sense. Go get treatment there.
But of course, he was in the D.C. area where there's plenty of military hospitals there too. So, yeah, like you said, it was a plot device to get him so that it was easier to explain how this man who was literally on death's door could travel to Stargate Command and then through the Stargate. Well, if he's just down the road, he's only a couple of miles away, relatively speaking. That's not a big deal.
Right.
Versus, oh yeah, we got to fly him all the way across the United States from Washington, D.C.
Right. This was much, much easier.
So as all this is going on, of course, they come up with Sam has these visions of one of the Tok'ra escapes. The last time the Tok'ra had to move planets, and she remembered because of Jolinar the gate coordinates. Where's the next planet? So of course they come up with the idea, let's go meet these people. We know about them, let's go meet them. And I like how basically she's the only one that's really convinced this is a good idea.
Yeah.
General Hammond's like, I'm not so sure. And O'Neill's like, oh, are we really doing this?
Yeah. And they kept calling it a dream. And she was very insistent. Not a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do it. They SG-1 goes there. And of course, they had to stick the pin on it again. It looks like Earth. I mean, that was when Jacob went through it. It looks just like Earth. Are you sure we're on another planet?
I think we've seen the sand pit before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and Jack is throwing a lot of shade at that poor stuck Malp that got stuck in the sand dune.
Oh,
he
yeah.
walks through, he's like useless, and then when he comes back, like at the next episode, he's like giving it the side eye as he walks by. And I was like, "What? It was not the Malp's fault."
There's some like behind the scenes story about that. Like,
yeah, like it cost him half a day of shooting or something because it was malfunctioning. Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't actually supposed to get stuck, but it did, and they just like leave it.
Yeah,
we'll work around it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this is one of these cases, of course, where Jaffa rumors and legends. There must be thousands of them. They must be constantly telling each other, like, campfire stories about the evil Tok'ra.
Yeah.
That's going to come get them because Teal'c knows all about them. Oh yeah. I've heard rumors of them. The Tok'ra are legendary. I spent years hunting out their tunnels.
Yeah.
I was listening to one of our previous episodes, and I can't remember who said it. If it was Victor or Jack, but somebody said, Teal'c's one of those that knows all about everything when he needs to know all about everything.
Yep.
But otherwise, he doesn't know much.
Yeah.
They have special crystals that can make tunnels with. They can even make tables, but they can't make doors.
So they don't need doors because secrets are.
Oh yeah, that's like, hey, where are all the doors? Oh, we don't need them. Are you sure it's because your crystals can't make hinges? Oh no, we just don't need doors.
No. I mean, all it would be is you'd see that cool creation effect would just create the door and then put it, get rid of it, which would actually would have been a cool way to do it. But I think they blew like their entire episode special effects budget on the tunnel being created and then it being uncreated later.
Yeah,
that was their entire special effects budget. Because it looks cheesy now.
Yes,
but for the time, it was awesome.
20 something years ago.
Yeah,
pretty awesome. And I love the sound.
Yeah, it looked.
Yeah.
Yep.
The whole episode.
And for
the sound of the crystals.
And for a cave set, the actual cave looks really cool. Like they, this is back before they could just 3D print, a bunch of hexagons and stuff. They had to actually mold all those themselves.
And of course we'll see those again. That's not the last time we see the Tok'ra enclosure. But I loved it where they're Teal'c is walking. They're walking through the desert. They're trying to find the Tok'ra. And they walk in this area and like, they're really good at hiding their footprints and, they're very stealthy and all of a sudden, poof, right out of the sand. Like, yeah, of course that's going to happen.
Yeah. it looks really cool, but then you like go back and rewatch it, and you're like, they pop up from like SG-1 would have been staring right at them in their hidey holes because they don't throw anything off when they jump, but they just jump. The audience can't see them just because of the way they have the dunes molded and stuff. But it's like SG-1 would have been, what are you doing down there? We're the Tok'ra.
You would have seen them as they were walking up.
Yeah.
You know, the idea they're supposed to be hiding under the sand waiting for them, and then they pop out or whatever. But I mean, I think there's obviously other ways they could have done it, but it was effective enough, especially when the SG-1 ended up being stuck right in the middle of the rings, right where the rings actually come up.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually it was pretty impressive. And so we get to meet Martouf for the first time at this point, and that's part of why Sam had the idea to come there, is because she had this vision of him from Jolinar that, oh, hey, I know this guy. And he's like, I've never met you before.
Right. She's like, I have a special connection to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't watched this one in a long time, and I vaguely remembered, you know, there's a traitor in it, and I just couldn't remember Martouf very well. So I was like, oh, is the reason Martouf's so interested in Jolinar is because, you know, he's the traitor and he wants to kill her, but it was just because they were married in the past. But
yeah. Yeah, and you know, we find that out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, do they even say married?
No,
Well, I mean, obviously they were in love, but you know,
Mates.
they've
I
been
think they call each
partners,
other
you know,
mates.
mates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which of course we'll say they were married. No.
yeah.
But yeah, we find out that they were been together for, you know, 100 years or more. And as Sam says, longer than I've been alive. You know, you guys, it's like, yeah, since you're only in your 20s, yeah, that's about it. You know, it's not, but it was so that's why there was that deep connection, why Jolinar's memory of that remained in Sam. And of course, we get to hear more of how in the Tok'ra, the host and the symbiote share so much more than just memories. You know, they share everything. They share emotions. They share, you know, thoughts.
Yeah. And I think it gets kind of confusing because they don't really have the language in like 1999, or language hadn't gotten to the point where they could have referred to like the actual symbiote in a gender neutral way, because they say, oh yeah, the symbiote itself doesn't, you know, is gender neutral. But then, I mean, that's not what they do for the rest of the Goa'uld. They all have, you know, distinct, you know, biological sex and stuff. But then it gets very confusing where they're talking about, especially when they get into the whole Sarush and Selmak thing. It's like, it's like, just pick a set of pronouns and stick with it. I don't care what it is. This is getting very confusing.
You need to bring 21 into 1998, huh?
Yeah, so
just for this,
be Tok'ra self.
Yeah,
Tok'ra self today.
Yeah,
Like
Tok'ra self. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's hear what I'm trying to think of some of the pronouns that are out there. No, I don't want to go into that too deep.
We could just go with
Tok'ra
self.
Well, and they even kind of express like where the symbiote might have a particular gender. They don't care, but they do have a preference for whether male or female, that they choose for their hosts in general. Because obviously, yeah, Selmak is a female symbiote, but ends up in Jacob Carter, a male. So,
it says Jolinar has always been in a woman.
Right. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily have to be. So it is a little confusing. I think if I remember right, they just kind of gloss over it later.
Yeah.
They don't really, this is about the only time we ever really hear them talk about that. And that's a good reason. It doesn't need to be. But yeah, Martouf's a character, obviously, we will see a lot of later. You know, he's not going away anytime soon. Unlike Garshaw, who's the leader, or at least, you know, the most infamous Goa'uld ever, according to Tilk.
Yeah.
Which she does look familiar to y'all, right? The actress
from Superman.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
B the
Sarah Douglas.
Sorry. That's
and
Falcon Crest. Y'all probably didn't watch Falcon Crest as kids, but
no, but I did watch Superman 2, and she was Urza, General Zod's companion. So that's where I recognized her from.
There, yeah.
She was Pamela in V, The Final Battle, which I was a huge V fan back in the day. So.
Oh, this was the original V? Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I watched some of that one. I have to say, I like the newer remake they did. That one was that late 90s, early 2000s. I like that one. That one was pretty good. Another one of those that was cut way too short, though. But I enjoyed that one. But yeah, she, of course, she's kind of almost set up as a leader of the Tok'ra, and yet this is the only time we see her.
Mhm.
She's not. There's another Tok'ra that kind of takes the female lead role later, but not her, not Sarah Douglas, not Garshaw. So that was kind of interesting choice again, especially since she's this infamous.
Well, and I don't think they ever
Infamous.
tell us where she went. At least that I remember. I wonder if it
They
was an
do-
acting change or if her character
And I
just didn't.
I think it was because let's see here. I'm trying to remember who it was that she got replaced by. Who the new leader. I can picture her. I just can't.
With the little page boy cut or whatever
Yeah. No, that's they can hear me stammer and stumble and
Yeah.
everything.
Hey, did you
that's-
know that J.R. Bourne, who played Martouf, was on Andromeda, Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo?
Was he really?
Yeah,
Nice.
it's. I think half the cast of this episode was also on an episode of Not Together, but on Viper, that 90s show about the superpowered Dodge Viper that fought crime and stuff.
Oh yeah, like you transform and stuff. Yeah, it could like transform and stuff. It's basically like an advertising for the Viper.
Late 90s was like the heyday of we've talked about this before, but there were just so many out there awesome shows that were in syndication that every week you could get 6 different really bizarre stories, sci-fi, magical cars. It's a wonderful time.
Yeah, if you look through his IMDb, he has worked pretty consistently since all of this. I just recently saw him on a Netflix show.
Nice. Well, and that's really kind of a compliment for an actor is to say they've worked. And they might not be a big name actor, like J.R. Bourne, the name of this actor, but he's busy.
Mm-hmm.
He's working.
Yeah. You see him.
And that says a lot. It says much more than you'd like to be a Patrick Stewart or somebody like that who's a big name actor, but if you're doing things for if you look at IMDb, if you've been steadily working, if you're doing multiple projects a year for the last 30 years, I think you're doing okay. I think you're fine. I couldn't find that. Sorry, I was trying to find on Stargate the Stargate who the other female Tok'ra we end up seeing much more of later. But yeah, it's another one of those actresses. As soon as you see her, you recognize her. She's been everywhere and all that kind of stuff. But this is the only time we see Garshaw, and she is mentioned elsewhere, but you don't really see her. So, and of course we see other Tok'ra running around. We got the Council of the Tok'ra, which we see them again. Maybe not the same members, but we definitely see the Council again. And they're the ones that say, no, we're not going to let you leave. Not just that we're not going to be your buddies. We're not going to let you leave either. You're stuck until we decide we're done here, which what a shock. That is 5 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's talk for a second about the similarities between the Tok'ra and the Goa'uld, because I get really offended if you call them Goa'uld.
Oh, yes. Right? Oh, yes.
But they kind of have a lot of personality similarities. Am I right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Disregard humans. We have no use for you except for as hosts. Right?
Yep.
And they're very arrogant and kind of self-absorbed and have no use for your technology or anything else. We just use what we're going to use from other people and we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Of course, they need a host. Although that's where the similarity ends there. Yes, they both need hosts, but how they use the host is very different. Because for the Tok'ra, the relationship between the symbiote and host is actually closer to take a drink, but the Trill and Star Trek, where it's a more of a mutual relationship. That they share the memories, they share emotions and everything. For the Goa'uld, it's more like the memory worms of Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, where the mind worms, the earworms, where they take over the host, instead of, the host having its own agency in the process. So there's very much a big distinction there. And then, then there's the issue of, going in through the mouth versus through the back, and then kind of interesting too, where that, the excuse they use is the system lords don't want to see the expression on the person's face when they take them over in a mirror. But, if you really think about it, it really is the difference between a free choice and being forced.
Yeah.
If they're coming in through your mouth, you have to willingly allow them in, usually, unless you're forced to, or there's, emergency like there was with Sam Carter and Jolinar. With the Goa'uld, they can come up behind you and come into you without you choosing to do it. It's their choice, not yours. I'm kind of surprised they didn't mention that in this episode, though. It was it was just they didn't want to see your face.
Well, and the Tok'ra go it through the mouth because the other way creates a scar that some of us find distasteful or something. It's like
it was like
the lamest. Yeah, it's like not like it's about consent and everything. No, it's just we haven't discovered cover up or concealer yet. So yeah,
exactly.
But I did like the way they set out the differences, but yet they left them, certain things the same, but they did, like you said, had them.
Yeah.
So I love the idea. I'm going to jump back to relationship. I love the idea that they set out that the host and the symbiote, the Tok'ra, both mate with the same host and Tok'ra. If that makes sense. Right? Yeah. Because to me, it was one more way they were trying to show that they were unified as one person, and that whole consent and going back and forth. So it was really kind of an interesting, just the way that they wove that in. And then of course you've got I got questions. So Martouf is the human and Lantash is the symbiote, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
But we really don't talk to Lantash that much. It's all Martouf. So Martouf was in love with Jolinar's host, which I cannot remember her name.
Did they mention her name?
Yeah.
And we see her in a future episode, the one with where they go to hell. That one. So we see her in flashback. So I just found it interesting that he's so attracted to Sam, and it wasn't Lantash being attracted to Jolinar.
Right.
Russia, or I can't read my handwriting here. Rus.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it started with an R. Yeah.
Ruja or something. Yeah, I just, without that scene, I was just like imagining Kirk going like, no more, blah, blah, blah. Because at that point, at that point, we'd well, I mean, we get some really good scenes with Hammond, talking to Jacob, Hammond being very, warm, and that teddy bear really coming through. Later on, Jacob asks, like, what's the catch? You'll cure my cancer. And he's like, it's a doozy. I'm not going to lie to you about that and stuff. But but and then it's just a lot of talking. And it's like, okay, now they're talking over here. Okay, now these two people are going over here to talk.
Well,
I did. I missed it.
Well, one thing I'm glad about is that that's literally where they cut off is with the conversation with Hammond, Sam and Jacob is, she'll explain it to you, it's a doozy. And then he kind of looks, and then they jump to them coming into the gate room, so they skipped all the conversation about, yes, you are about to be, taking into your body a alien worm, alien snake of some sort, but this is a friendly one. We swear.
I think we just
yeah.
But they're better than the other people. They're better than the other snakes.
And instead of like a Doctor Who, like it's bigger on the inside moment, we get one of those. I go to other planets. It's like, oh, that's nice. You go to other planets in your mind. It's like, no, not in my mind. In real life,
it's real.
Yeah. One of those moments that we get a lot of times on Stargate. But
I love his his reaction, like, holy Hannah. Of course, that's his phrase. That's his catchphrase, holy Hannah. But it's just like, as soon as he realized, it's like, oh, no wonder you didn't want to go to NASA, and there's even the line about, wow, that's much better than, that's much better than being strapped on a rocket on the space shuttle. And Jack goes, yeah, it goes further too.
Yeah. Or when they do go through the gate, and Jacob's like, wow, you do that a lot. And what is it? Carter goes, yeah, once or twice a week.
I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
Go- Well, that aligns to their episodes, right? Where they once per week they go to a planet and come back usually. So
Yeah, exactly.
I made a note that Carter looked like she was having a lot of fun explaining this to her dad
Mhm.
and like showing him through the gate. And of course, Jack's like, it's a piece of cake. It's no big deal. And, you know, she just had this little grin once they got into the planet. And he says, it looks like Earth.
Yep.
And, you know, I just thought that was a nice little moment.
Well, it's always fun when they have the Stargate reveals where people go through for the first time. You know, you had Hammond where he complained about the things I do for these people. And, you know, and you know, of course, later on when we go through Atlantis, where you've got some of the why am I just blanking on him now?
McKay's sister?
No,
Rodney McKay's sister? Or
no, the pilot, the first episode
Shepherd.
of Atlantis
Oh,
when
Shepard, yeah.
Shepard goes through and he's you know, it's like, does it hurt? Oh, it's terrible. And then jumps in the other and there I just froze for a second. So
Yeah, edit.
but yeah, it's always fun to see those introductions to the Stargate for someone who never goes through it, never gone through it before, and it kind of reminds us of the wonder of what is it like, what would it feel like to go through this, where you're literally, it's a transporter with a wormhole, is what it is. You know, what does that feel like? How would you experience that? And I think we'd all like to experience that one day. That's for sure.
A lot to take in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dying. Okay, your daughter goes through wormholes to another planet. Okay, now you're going to go and possibly get a snake in your head through your mouth and live forever with an alien in you.
Well, at least 100 years or so, because that is one distinction between the Goa'uld and the Tok'ra is the Tok'ra does not use the sarcophagus. They do not use that at all, and they say it sucks the good out of your heart.
And what did Daniel
And
say?
Daniel's like, you say that again.
Yeah. Boy, howdy.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it has again another one of those differences that we don't that we see between the two, the Tok'ra and the Goa'uld, is the Tok'ra is willing to, you know, have to change hosts every 200 years, whereas the Goa'uld would, you know, they want to rule forever.
Yeah.
So.
And the Tok'ra are much more into kind of like loose knit natural fibers than the Goa'uld are.
Yeah.
They don't believe in dyeing their fabric. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I will say that we do get a really good, the evacuation scene when when Sam and Jack come back and everybody's running around like crazy and doing their best like, you know, evacuation of Hoth impression. It was actually like it was a really good like action scene for what it was. Like there was a lot of, you know, they explored the set, you know, they didn't expose too many of the seams or limitations on it. So I thought that was very effective.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having internet fluctuation. We're having wind, so it's another thing to cut Jack is when I pause here.
Yeah.
I'll make sure he sends a note that he's gonna have to watch closely on this episode. But let's see here. Where were we?
The evacuation.
In terms of but in terms of like the Stargate itself and the technology on the show, we get our best look, I think, yet at the off-world Stargate prop. We get like really close-up, cool shot of it right at the very beginning. We see more of how the ring transports work, that the rings, you know, are not stationary on the planet. They actually dissolve and transport with the people inside. So that was cool. I think this is the first time Lara Sadik, the actress, her technician has a last name. She's Technician Davis. And you want to talk about somebody who's worked a lot recently. She's been in, I think, 10 to 12 shows and movies this year alone.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always good when a character gets a name on this show. It's a big moment.
Okay, was
Stop
there
doing this.
oops. So at the very end, when Jack and SG1 Makepeace are back at the SGC and they kept waiting for, I just forgot what you said her name was. The technician. So she's like, I don't have their
Technician
code,
Davis.
sir, right? And on their end in the SGC, the gate is engaged. or it looks like it is with the iris closed, right? Like they're just waiting for the GDO to open. But Carter on the planet has to dial.
Right.
She runs
or has she already?
I can dial out before they dial in.
Yeah, that was a definite continuity bug there, where the SG1 or SG3 and half SG1 come back, and then the gate. You can imagine the gate closed, and then they're waiting for the new call in from Sam. And it doesn't come, and of course she has to quickly. It's a good thing she can dial quickly. Let's just put it that way.
Well, Daniel dialed really quickly too earlier.
Yeah. I think they're kind of figuring out how to do it, and in a hurry. Although of course Daniel does. Well, we have to wait. Dial now. Typical Daniel.
The Goa'uld were not Johnny on the spot locking out that gate, so the humans couldn't use it this time. But you'd be happy to know that.
Sure.
Yeah. I checked with our technical consultant, our 8-year-old, and he did confirm that they were dialing the Earth address on the DHD.
There we go.
Yeah.
So they weren't going to Abydos again, huh?
No. No. Although I think the DHDs now, that DHD prop, maybe only the Earth address symbols light up on it or something, but
that could be.
Yeah.
Okay, when they...
Yeah, I mean, that would make it easier. But
speaking of DHDs, when they got back and Garshaw goes, how do you dial?
Yeah.
And he's like, we made our own. And she's like, oh, super cool. Show me. My husband goes, oh yeah. Didn't you just show that to Destroyer of Worlds? And look what happened. Like, why are you showing off letting people dial into the computer?
Yeah. It's a really good point. It's they're very trusting of the Tok'ra.
Yeah. Well, I can say at least with the Tok'ra, it works out for their advantage, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, it does help them kind of, and I think the reason why they made sure to throw that in there is so that the Tok'ra can go, okay, maybe these people have more awareness of what's going on than we thought. They have more technological prowess than we thought. Even if their technology is primitive by Goa'uld standards, they still figured out the Stargate on their own and built their own dial home device. And that says a lot if you're trying to get an ally who might have better technology. Unlike the Tolan, who think, no, we have better technology and we're going to keep it all for ourselves.
We don't care. We don't care what you think or what you're doing or that you're, no.
Yeah, you're not smart enough for us, so forget it.
And you never will be.
Yep, exactly. So is there anything else you want to talk about there, Victor?
Yeah, actually, the best scene, I think, in the 2 episodes is the scene between Jacob and Sarush, as he is deciding whether or not he wants to take Selmak on, and Selmak is deciding if he wants to blend with Jacob, and it's just a really nice, touching scene. You have 2 actors who are I think maybe in their 60s and 70s at that point, and the dialogue is very well written, very clever, not quippy, but it's just a very touching scene, I thought. And Selmak asks Jacob, "Are you a good man?" And Jacob says, at this point, what difference does it make? I'm dying, you're dying, good, bad. I'm the guy with the pulse. And yeah, so I think it shows that there is compatibility between the symbiote and the host, and that's a consideration, and that it really can be something other than what the Goa'uld does, which is a complete takeover of the personality, but a real blending of the personalities. So, so I like that scene. I think that's the scene from this episode that sticks with me the most.
I agree. I wrote down on there, I love that if you think about how much time they took out of the episode just to do that, it really was a nice chunk of time for the episode. And they didn't rush it. And it was just nice to have that moment to show the difference with the Tok'ra, or to give, because Jacob Carter's going to be with us a little bit more. And just, it was good. I really liked that too.
Well, very good. Well, anything else for you, Lisa?
We didn't really talk about Martouf and Carter and their love affair and all of their emotions.
They sat in this. I didn't catch a lot
about the technology, and we talked about the special effects. And I'm like, we got to talk about all the emotions that Carter is having for this guy she just met because of the Tok'ra that she had in her head for like 2 hours or whatever, and
Yeah.
Yeah. My girls were okay. My 20-year-old might get mad at me, but they were so in love with Martouf when they were younger. Like he was the
They had a crush.
Yeah. So he was a big deal in our house.
So at this point, I would say it's for Sam, it's more intellectual curiosity or something. I mean, or she's trying to figure out like how this all works. And then we get the great line, this must be what schizophrenia feels like. Reduction of schizophrenia to just multiple personality disorder. And you're like, no, actually, this is not what schizophrenia feels like.
No.
But they did a great job of going through this whole storyline with Carter getting possessed by Jolinar, however you want to call it.
They did.
And then just, keep bringing out these little tidbits and nuggets, and it lasts for a long time. And so much better than like they do with Entity several seasons for now, where it happens and then it's over and there's no after effect. So
yeah,
I'm not a Martouf fan, but I like it. He's fine, just not for me or Carter.
So that's why you're on, Lisa, to talk about things like this, important things like relationships and shipping and
I know. We're a good balance though, because I love all the episodes that are very character, all the character development, all the relationships, when it's all shoot 'em up, I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
But that's what makes 90s sci-fi so good. They do both.
Yeah. And we get to see Makepeace again and the Sagan Institute box. So they both make a reappearance.
Well, that's one thing that I do love, though, is, General Hammond has someone to send through the gate to let Sam Carter know that her husband is, her father is about ready to die. And he sends the most cold, impersonal person possible. He couldn't have sent, some other team.
There,
it has to be the guy that's
they're basically locked down and they
the whole
can't leave.
Thing. So
he showed a little bit of personality during the evacuation, though.
Yeah, he was helping. It's like, hey, they piled your stuff there. Take what you.
Yeah. And this is getting frustrating. So let's kind of. So, anyways. Yeah, obviously, this episode we enjoy, but it definitely doesn't have as much action as perhaps Victor would like. Towards the until the end.
Yeah.
But before we go, we've got some feedback we received from our episode on Thor's Chariot that we did recently. This came on the YouTube channel, the StarQuest Media YouTube channel, where you can find our shows and you can listen to them there and comment there as well. Paul Leone wrote, "Yay, the Asgard! They're such a fun concept. It's way off, but I can't wait till we meet Hermiad." Yeah, so of course, we're going to get to meet more Asgard as we go along, and Hermiad. Now he's the bitter one, isn't he?
I would. Well, yeah, bitter is a good word. Highly put upon, I would say.
Yeah, he's the one who sighs all the time and grumbles and
curses and Asgardian. Yeah,
Asgardian. Yeah. So, we got him. He's quite a while. And then we got Thomas Salerno wrote also on YouTube, "Thor's Chariot is one of my favorite early season episodes of SG-1 as it gives us our first proper introduction to the Asgard, who are probably my favorite Stargate alien faction. I thought it was so cool to introduce a mostly benevolent alien species that even the Goa'uld were wary of tangling with. By the way, I love the podcast, guys. I really enjoy how you can critique and even poke fun at some of the sillier aspects of a show without being overly negative or hostile, like a lot of pop culture commentary these days. Keep up the great work." Well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment. We definitely want to have an upbeat conversation in the process. We don't want this to be something downer, something like so many, like you said, some of those pop culture commentary podcasts you find are pretty depressing, actually.
Yeah, and any sort of joking or gentle ribbing or not so gentle ribbing comes from a place of affection. We love these shows. They've had a lasting impression on us. We find, their many quirks and kind of the rough edges sometimes very endearing. And I mean, if we do poke fun, it's comes from a place of true appreciation for the people who made these shows and gave us something joyous to watch every week.
Yeah, and we're more than willing to say when we don't like an episode, when we think an episode just completely misses the mark. Emancipation. I'm sorry, that's still my least favorite SG-1 episode. That in my opinion, at least of what we've talked about so far, is the worst SG-1 episode.
I don't know.
I got a not so favorite one coming up.
Oh, we got another one.
Well, we don't want to spoil that, but yeah. Coming up. But yeah, so thank you for your comments. Definitely. We appreciate
we definitely appreciate it, and any more feedback we can get, we love it, and we want to keep it coming. But as we close out, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who made it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Beverly D, Dennis G, Jeffrey F, NR, and AJ. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows here at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow this show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on our SQPN YouTube channel. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate, or you can also find us on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuest Media. I just blanked on it, but yes, you search for StarQuest Media on YouTube, if nothing else, if I don't have the right address. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. You can join the StarQuest Fan Club mailing list by texting StarQuest to 66866. Send StarQuest to 66866. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1 Spirits. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Father Cory.
Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Father Cory, and now you can sit around for hours cracking yourself up.
And once again, I'm Father Cory Sticha. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, and I've lost my quote, blood, death, bad, hard feeling, it'd suck.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?
Hi, everyone. This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of StarQuest, with a special message as we approach the Christmas season. This past year, the StarQuest Network has continued to expand our mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture through our many entertaining and informative programs. Now we need your generous financial support to reach new audiences with more of the life-changing and uplifting programming we've been creating for more than a decade. That's why it's very important that we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you are already a supporter of StarQuest, we thank you and ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you're not yet a supporter, please become one now. Every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? Whatever level of support you can offer, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas. And remember that your gifts may be tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. May God bless you this Advent, and may you have a blessed Christmas season.